Hello, episode 2, if that's what we're calling it, episodes. My name's Paul Rhodes. I run a software development company called Green Gorilla Automation. And this is my attempt at a one take, no edit kind of update on running a software development business in 2026, having a team, running a business remotely, and effectively just a kind of warts and all honest account of what the last week has been like. I've got my usual thing of a Pomodoro timer, so I'm going to set it to 20 minutes to cut myself off because I have a habit of rabbiting on. I've got my post-it of my 3 things I'm going to talk about, and I've got a glass of water to hopefully make me get through the 20 minutes. I think like the first video, really, I'm still incredibly nervous, but I've had a bit of feedback. So I guess the first things are, if there's any topics or questions people want me to answer as you watch this, feel free to drop me a message and leave a comment, and I'll do my best to answer it in future episodes. The plan here is that it's weekly. The first one I recorded, I had like glare from lights that I was testing, and then my kids were like, "Oh my god, this is embarrassing, Dad." So I've kind of just gone with natural light flooding in from the window. I've got rid of my grey background and just used a stock one. So I use Riverside FM to do my podcasts and to do this. So I think it's brilliant. And so my wife has chosen the plant background for me. So that's the most executive decision on this. Also, Erin, who works for me, she was in the film and TV industry for a long time. She's worked on like loads of Netflix stuff for the last 6 years. So she gave me some pointers as well. So hopefully you should see a 1% improvement between episode 1 and episode 2. What else? In terms of just being a total amateur at this and quite embarrassed, I uploaded the first episode, and when I was going through the kind of, I guess, the process of uploading it to YouTube, it asked me the question, is it made for kids? And I was like, well, no, it's not made for children. It's a boring mid-40s brummie talking about AI and software development and running a business. And so I flagged it as not for kids. And it seems that everyone was getting a age restricted. You know, you can't just access this on the public internet. You need to be logged into your YouTube account. So this one I'll just upload. And I think there was mass disappointment from the messages I got that I wasn't swearing. I thought they were kind of hoodwinked into thinking it was going to be a really interesting episode because it was only for 18 plus, but apologies for that. So my plan's not to swear. I swear too much in my daily life, so I'll try and keep this a bit more universal. So I think that's it. We're kind of into episode 2. Knock my water over. So I've done my apology, which was one, just not having a clue how to do these things. It's the classic thing of I'd rather do it and be consistent and get better than not start. I've never been that sort of person. And secondly, it's just an apology because I came out the trap, so to speak, after a meeting with Ash and Jez that I mentioned in episode 1, and kind of, almost sod it. I'll do this this weekly YouTube thing because you guys keep telling me that I should, and then I missed a week. And the only reason I missed a week is because I was too ill to face the camera, and I was too ill to face the camera because I'd had too much alcohol. So that's not a great state to be in. So that's first confession number 1 is I missed a week, so I feel particularly bad. Also, it's Sunday, it's not Friday, but it's still, in my head, that still counts as the end of the week. So I'm gonna give myself a break there. So Sunday afternoon, I'm recording this, and we'll get into kind of today's topic, really. So as I mentioned, I've run a business for 14 years. Before that, I ran another business for 3 years that kind of crashed through cash flow, which is an ever-present issue in the business. And so I want to talk about budgets, and I think I might have touched on some of this in episode 1 when, forgive me, in episode 1 I talked about what happens when a client kind of has a budget, but actually you realize or you invalidate the idea, like it's not a feasible thing to do right now because of certain obstacles, so saving the client their budget. This is more a case of what do you do when you're in front of it's a prospect, isn't it? You're in front of a prospect or a lead, and, not through any fault of their own, they don't seem to have a budget set aside for what they're about to talk to you about. And so it's this kind of like back and forth of, well, we work best when we know the budget that you're looking for. And equally, they need to be able to ask questions to understand what type of budgets they're going to need. And I just find it a constant game of cat and mouse. And I find it really exhausting as well for both parties, because we just, let's try and put it politely, but we can waste a lot of time, and we can waste a lot of each other's time if we don't get to the truth, really. So the analogy I always kind of bring it back to is, if you're shopping for a car, the buyer often has in their mind, are they prepared to spend £1,000 on a vehicle, or are they prepared to spend £50,000 or even £500,000? And it kind of narrows what sort of solution or type of vehicle you're looking for. Is you're looking for something just to take you from A to B, and you don't care how it does it, you just want to get from A to B? Or do you want to get there in style, in the best quality possible solution? It becomes much, much more than a transportation device. So, long story short, I tend to do this sort of thing. We're talking to a lot of people at the moment who are interested in either software projects, but the majority of people are interested in AI automation. They understand that they're well, I think the common consensus I'm finding is people are not spending an automation budget because they don't have an automation budget, and equally they haven't. There's like a fear of wasting money with AI is what I keep experiencing. Is people know they should do something, but the do something is really hard to quantify. And so we're kind of going through a lot of conversations at the moment where we're taking it back to, we know kind of how to build stuff, and we know the sorts of things that you can do, and they all come with varying degrees of complexity. And traditionally, it's not necessarily the case today, but traditionally complexity has meant more time, more money. That's how the basics of software has worked for a long time. And it's a massive change now to value, because it's a value-based, economics is always value-based. What you're prepared to pay is based on your perceived value of that solution. Sorry, there's a problem with one take as I keep going. So it's all about perceived value. But how do you help with somebody when they genuinely don't appear to have a budget? So I was just going to go through my kind of 3-step approach to this to see if it helps people watching to identify what they're prepared to spend on other things in their life. And then also it helps suppliers, and it doesn't have to be software or AI, it can help in anything. But effectively, when working out a budget, we have to go and get absolute clarity on the goal of what we're trying to achieve. And it's really weird when I do this in like a sales environment, because you kind of, people want the how. They want, we just need A, B, and that's it. But actually we need to take them and we need to help them to understand, well, what's the purpose of all this? What do you actually achieve by doing this? So a real clear, defined goal is just, I don't know how you create a budget if you don't have that. So as a result of doing X, we expect to get and reach this goal. So the goal is the first thing that we try and define. And then the next thing is, if that goal, it's a classic magic wand question, but if that goal were to be achieved, what value does it bring to your business? And then only then can you ask the third question, which is, okay, so how much are you prepared to invest to get that goal? And how certain does it appear that if you invest that, you're going to achieve that? So some things we talk to people about are just not worth putting any money into. Yes, you could potentially automate a process, or yes, you could potentially streamline something. But if there's no return, what's the point? There's got to be there's got to be some sort of tangible gain from doing it. So I've talked very hypothetically. So without mentioning any names, I'll talk about like real world experiences where I've both effectively poo-pooed a project, and then where we've gone ahead, basically. So good examples of where we've gone ahead are we're talking to somebody and it's about, okay, we need some AI consultancy to improve our development processes. That seems to be a big thing at the moment. And obviously we could approach that by just going, okay, tell me about your development processes. Yes, we've got the solution. We can do this. Or alternatively, we say, okay, so why do you want to improve your development processes? And it might sound stupid to ask those sorts of questions, but what comes out is gold. It's just like, well, it's because of this situation. And one reason is just the owner was expecting at a certain time in their life, a certain milestone birthday, to have a business where they would be at this place, where they got clarity and where they wanted to get to. But actually, they haven't achieved it. And instead, they're perhaps more operational now than they've ever been. So we know the goal. So if we know the goal is to that, we go for the why. So why do you want to do that? And that's a massive part of it. And often it's not about money. It's about time, and it's about family and where they invest their time. And then it comes back round to, okay, so what if you could be there today, the magic wand question, if I could wave a magic wand and you had that solution in place, what would you be prepared to pay to get there? And often people will say really low figures, or they'll say really high figures, but the figure's irrelevant at this point. The figure is, it's personal to them. It's an emotional thing, even though it's logic based. But actually what they're doing is they're processing it in their own head, and they probably haven't been asked those questions before. So you've got to understand the value of achieving the thing. So if I bring it back round to a real example, we're working with a development team, and they've got a lot of developers. I mean, they've got tens, they're probably closer to 50 developers than not. And fundamentally, they know that what it costs to hire and to train a developer, and they know that the current developers are capable of X amount of output. So if they want to double their business overnight, the question is, do you take on twice the amount of developers, or do you look for other ways? So we have a value thing straight away, is that ultimately business has a target. It's trying to double its profits, double its revenue over that period of time. But they want to do it with the same headcount, is what we hear a lot. So the value can be quantified. It can be, well, we're currently a £5 million business and we want to get to be a £10 million business, but we want to do the same headcount. So, okay, so that's your goal. So we've got goal and we've got clarity. We can ask lots of why questions as to why do you want to do that and what would need to happen for that to get there. So then you come round to, well, we know the value of it and we know why. So we've got absolute clarity. Now the question is, what were you prepared to invest? It's as simple as that. And if somebody says £10, I don't see how you're going to invest £10 and get a £5 million uplift. I know these are really stupid. This is how my brain's working in one take, but it's kind of, a much more realistic number is what you would expect to come out. And often I've never had anybody not tell me. And obviously we're digging for the truth and we're trying to find out just so we can work out if we can even work with them. But my thing isn't, oh, great, you've got a £250,000 or £500,000 budget, we'll rinse it. It's like, okay, but now we've got something we can work with. We can still give you 3 options. We can still tell you like the gold, silver, bronze packages, but fundamentally we've got something that we're mutually agreed on as a starting point. And it changes everything, because it changes the conversation, because suddenly you realize you're in front of somebody and they're either looking for, an A to B vehicle and nothing else, or they're looking for the absolute premium, best quality thing. And when you bring into it people's exit strategies in terms of what they want to do with the business, and when you bring into it their lifestyle choices, it just changes everything. So in a long-winded conversation today, and I feel like this has not been the episode I wanted to record, but I'm going to stick by my thing of, a single take. I'm hoping this is providing value, because loads of us skip this step. If you're in any kind of supply business or service business, we're often so keen to present the solution that we skip over the fundamentals. And all that happens is you have a mismatch between here's the solution and here's what they're prepared to pay because the value's not there. So I'm just trying to help people avoid, oh, we've got somebody in front of us. Oh, they've got X, Y, and Z. We assume loads of stuff. It's the worst thing ever. We assume loads of stuff. And then we go back with a little ribbon wrapped proposal or quote or solution. We go, we can solve all this for you. It's going to cost, I don't know, £20,000. And you don't even think £20,000 is a lot. But actually in their head, they were looking for a £500,000 solution. It doesn't matter what the brackets are. What matters is you didn't ask the question to find it out. And the only reason I'm being so belligerent about it is because it happens to me all the time, and I can always go back. And we've put in a hard and fast rule now where my team will not estimate anything without a qualified budget. And it sounds so basic, and it sounds like, well, that's obvious. But that's not how it used to happen. It used to be that I would come very excited, like today. I would be kind of, come on, let's get this. Just give me a ballpark. Just give me a figure, or give me 3 options. But someone's got to go away and do that. It's obviously easy with AI and estimating and stuff like that, but you're just wasting time. You're wasting time for the person who thinks that you can solve their problem with a totally different number in their head. How does that help them? And it even works inversely, that we could go back and quote £50,000 and think that it's like, oh, they're never going to take it, blah, blah, blah. But actually, that might be deemed cheap for them in terms of the value and what it needs to do. And so they're not prepared to risk working with you because there's like a trust gap then. So yeah, budgets is just, again, I'm not a sales expert. This is just, this is just the stuff that's happening to me, but I can almost go upstream every single project and look at how good was the budget conversation. And I think bringing it back round to like AI and how that can help you is, if you record your meetings, which we do, there's like Fireflies, there's loads of them, Fathom. We use Granola, and we use Whisper Flow, and we use Notion has got meetings built in. Use Motion has got meetings built in. So we use all these different tools, but AI is amazing at processing large data. So, and you can give it context and lenses. So effectively, I can take all my meeting transcriptions from the last at least 3 years. I won't do that amount of data, but I could. I'll probably be interested in the last 6 months. I could load it all into a model, or I could use something like Notebook LM, and then I could just probe it and ask it loads of questions about, okay, what is the goal? What is the overall goal that people are trying to achieve? Just as a segue against how my brain works. So I was with somebody the other day, and they were talking about how a client had gone cold. They'd kind of, not a client, a prospect, and that they were really, really keen. Met the CEO, met the MD, different meetings, had a clear understanding of the gap between where they are and where they want to get to. Had a budget, had a proposal, sent it all over, and then it's like classic ghost mode. And I'm not saying this is the answer, but when I had a conversation with them and asked them the direct question, why did they want to do that improvement? They didn't know. They didn't fundamentally know the why. They just knew the how and the what they wanted. And so I guess budget is actually, well, why are you doing it? Because the budget will be derived out of the value to the business, and it will be derived out of what will it bring? And then the trust gap, or the risk of certainty, is the thing that will get them over the line. So yeah, you can tell looking at me, I'm stood in front of a fake background and doing one take videos on YouTube. But I just think that's where I'm investing my time. That was the lesson I wanted to pass on, is what's the one thing I'm personally taking a lot more responsibility for in my business this week, and it's budgets and budget qualification. And the last piece I was going to say really quickly was that using AI to solve and automate and eliminate a lot of back office processes, especially when it comes to, say, sales and sales admin. What it allows you to do is be the most human you can in front of prospects and ask better questions. So the amount of time that we used to take to do certain things is eradicated. And again, like, I'll wrap it up with another case in point, but I was with one of my developers over lunch and I had a sales proposal to send off. And on the drive over, I'd spoken to, I think it was Notebook LM. Notebook LM on the drive over had prepared the gamma. The gamma got generated, and I sat with him with a beer, and I just reviewed it for 5 minutes, changed a few things, and it went off. And he was literally gobsmacked. And, I'm thinking, you're a developer, like, you're better than I ever was, and you're like one of the top talents in the business, and you're amazed at that. But when he asked the question, how long did it used to take you? The honest answer was, it probably took me half a day to put a proposal together. I wouldn't even do a gamma deck because it didn't exist, but I'd do like a Google Slides or some sort of like slide deck as well as a presentation. And fundamentally, I would put it off. That's my personality. Is I do things last minute, like this video on a Sunday afternoon. There's my timer going, so I shut up. But yeah, it was just I would put it off. So it would probably take me 2 weeks of mental anguish to then do half a day's work to then send it off. And now it can be done literally in minutes. And so there's no excuse why you can't send over documentation, why you can't send over notes, actions and agreed budgets for clarification within minutes of meeting somebody. So I'll wrap it up there. I was going to talk about AI code, but we've run out of time. I didn't intend it to be a sales rant or it's just a failing of my own. And it's just that realization that if we are to improve as a business, let's maximize the human element and let's get AI to kind of automate and streamline the operations so that we can do the stuff that it can't do. And qualifying budgets is my big area of focus right now. So thank you for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And it's been good to get the second one done.